Hello, you lovely lot. Welcome back to Excuse Me. This week, we have a great episode for you. But before we get stuck into that, I just wanted to say a huge thank you to all of you for tuning into the show once again and giving up some of your precious time to hang out here with us. So, on today's show, we're actually going to be talking about something that affects approximately 15% of all people: dyslexia. Dyslexia doesn't discriminate as it occurs in people of all genders and backgrounds. Dyslexia occurs within every language spoken on the planet and from every country. And most people don't even know that they live with it. According to the latest statistics on dyslexia, sourced from the Reading Well, of people placed in special education for learning disabilities, around 80% have dyslexia. Somewhere between 25 to 40% of children with dyslexia also have ADHD, and conversely, approximately 25% of children with ADHD also have dyslexia. So today, I'm really excited to introduce you all to a great friend of mine who is an advocate for spreading awareness and dismantling the stigma that surrounds dyslexia, Che Turner. Che is the founder of The Smart Dyslexic, where his goal is to help others with dyslexia gain a greater understanding of the challenge so that they can live productive and fulfilling lives. Che recently shared his own dyslexia story online with the British Dyslexia Association in an incredibly personal and touching article. Che is also working on a little something incredible that will potentially change the game for anyone who has dyslexia. Che, welcome to the show. How are you?
Sean, thank you very much for having me. I really appreciate that introduction. It was lovely, very detailed. Thank you very much.
My pleasure. This is why they don't pay me the big bucks.
Excuse my little nervous beginning to your podcast here, but yeah, thank you very much for having me, and I really look forward to sharing my story. It's not unique, as you mentioned in the introduction. There's a lot of people out there, and hence why I want to spread the message and share the love, really.
So, why don't we start, I guess, not at the very beginning, but how you learned and figured out that you had dyslexia, how you got diagnosed with it, and how you lived with it.
It's a funny story, really. I think anyone of my generation, I was 40 before I found out I was dyslexic. It eventuated when I decided to go back to uni to do my nursing degree, and then part of that was if you are dyslexic, you get extensions on exams, etc. So it's quite a costly process to get diagnosed. In Australia, it's about $1,000 because you need a clinical educational psychologist to do it. So put up the money. I always had a thought that I may have been dyslexic, but I never really knew. So went ahead and had the test, and it was quite an amazing day, to be honest with you, Sean. Just to have that sort of nice confirmation, that years and years of knowing that something wasn't quite right, to actually have it down on paper. Yeah, and it's from that sort of point that I decided to spread the word and tell people about it and its advantages and disadvantages, really.
So
So
when
that's
you got that diagnosis and then you were able to sort of, I guess, have that sense of relief, how did that make you look back at like past experiences and go, oh, okay, I could probably put that down to undiagnosed dyslexia?
it made everything crystal clear. It was very, very much, the old analogy, putting on a set of glasses for the first time, but that's pretty much what it was like. It was look back at my childhood at school, and all the times when I thought I was stupid. I think that's the biggest thing that sort of creeps in when you're quite young, because you can't keep up with your peers. Your whole cohort at school seems to be miles ahead of you, and you're just wondering why I can't do that. So that sort of it was like putting on a set of glasses, and everything that happened in my life was became crystal clear. Yeah, it was great. Really, really good experience. And I recommend to anyone that thinks they are, go ahead and do the test if they can afford it.
So when you were tiny Che at school and you felt like you were struggling with keeping up in class, obviously you went to school, you said you didn't get diagnosed until you were 40. You're not a day over 39 in my book. But
You
what was it
ingratiate me.
when you were going through school, which was, a few years ago now? Obviously times have changed, but what was it really like? I mean, you said you felt like you weren't really keeping up with everybody and you were made to feel dumb. But how do you think like that has changed now with everybody? I know so many people who are dyslexic. And just in that, opening about how many children are put into special education schools because of dyslexia. Like, how do you think the times have changed from when you were at school to if you were a tiny Che now going through school?
I don't think I was ever a tiny, tiny Che. I might have been a little chubby boy. It's changed a lot. Obviously, when I was young, it wasn't recognized. So it was pretty much it was before reading age. So up until reading age, I was hammering it, like smashing it out of the ballpark, doing extremely well. And then once literacy and numeracy were introduced, it put a bit of a curveball in there. And it was just simply, I was actually put into a special classroom which had bean bags, and all we did all day, literally, was sit down and watch TV. And I was surrounded by some very unique individuals that probably had a little effect on me and growing up. So at that point there, the whole obviously, but when you say young, you take things personally. So I was put in this special class with a load of special children that some of them couldn't even speak or communicate at all. So that had a massive effect on my self-esteem. But now, going back to what you mentioned before, Sean, is that it is out there, and it's a great thing that it's been detected early. I think in the UK, it's probably a little more advanced than it is here. There's probably still a little bit of work to do, I believe, at school. But it definitely is getting detected earlier, and it does make a difference. And I know it would have changed my life if I was found out when I was sort of 10, 11, and how I would have approached education and how I would have approached a lot of things in life. It would have had a different. I mean, just a small story, complete tangent. We went to we had a careers advisor. You have careers advisors.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know if they still have them. We change careers every day now, so I'm not sure if we still have them. But I
Now
remember
every
going
day,
in.
everybody's just a social media influencer anyway. That's all they want to be these days.
That's going to be the career for most kids. I think this. Well, that's what I'm hoping for. I can leave my daytime job. Um, where was I? Complete tangent. Oh yes, careers advisor. I was going into the careers advisor's office, and he sat me down, and he was saying, so, he said, like, what do you want to do when you grow up? I was like, oh, maybe I can be a pilot, or I can join the Air Force. I was really into planes when I was young. And he reached over and he pulled out this leaflet, and it was from the Tweedshire Council. And he put it down on the desk, and he said, Che, I think that's probably the career you should choose. So I picked it up and I looked at it, and this is no disrespect to refuge collectors, because we need them in this world.
Mm-hmm.
And it was a garbage. Tweed City Council were recruiting for garbage collectors, and he said, I think this will be a really good career choice for you. Um, and it was such a shock. So going back to your question, yeah, the disparity between now and then is, yeah, completely black and white.
Did he give you any sort of reason as to why that would be a good job for you? Or did he just like, here you go, dude?
It was my grades, just correlating my grades compared to sort of, I think they've got like an IQ chart. They probably don't have this anymore, but at school they probably had like an IQ chart and job description. So at the top, if your IQ is quite high, you'd be a rocket scientist. And then down the bottom, the IQ was a refuge collector. So I looked
Right.
forward to a exciting life at the front of the truck. I decided not to go down that road, but it's quite funny. I don't know where that career officer is at the moment. He's probably dead now, the poor fella. Yeah,
Probably.
it was that long ago.
He's gone out with the trash. Um, so when did you like obviously when you found out that you were dyslexic, and you've lived a life and you're still living a life and you've been able to go, okay, things fall into place. You're like, okay, I can put this to that, I can put this to that. I guess as a homosexual, that's me, um, I had to come out. So I guess there would have been a level of coming out as a dyslexic person. And then that would impact, I guess, the not just the way you see yourself, but the way it might shake your confidence when applying for jobs or that sort of thing, feeling like you're gonna have to, tell people you're dyslexic. What was that like for you?
Yeah, sure. Not to take anything. I mean, I think what you did and coming out is a lot harder than what I've done. I think that's what you've done with you coming out, etc. Everyone's story is different, of course. But for me, it was a gradual thing, which you probably couldn't do. You couldn't gradually come out as homosexual, could you? You couldn't say,
I
"Oh,
tried to ease my parents in by going, I like guys and girls, and then just drop the girls. I guess that's
that's
kind
just."
of kind of gradual.
It is gradual, yeah. It's quite gradual. Like a bit of both, and then just my flavors, sort of men. Um, I had the privilege of coming out slowly, so I hid my dyslexia pretty much majority of my life. I went into a career as a chef primarily because I knew I didn't have to write a lot. But then that had its funny side because as a chef, you sometimes you need to write menus, etc. Like drizzled, like things I used to write down, like drizzled with lime juice, Satan chicken instead of satay chicken, jalapeno poopers. These are things I actually put on the menu. You know, like instead of sweet chocolate cake, like sweaty chocolate cake.
I mean, who doesn't like a sweaty
Yeah,
chocolate
everyone
cake?
loves a chocolate cake. I owned a couple of restaurants as well, and I used to have, put a sign that like shoplifters will be prostituted instead of prosecuted. And because on my own filter, these things went public, and then people used to walk in the restaurants and everything and go, "Oh, I'll have a sweaty chocolate cake, please." So that was quite a funny story on being dyslexic. I've got a complete tangent again, mate. Apologies. What was the?
Yeah,
I've
no,
got
that's
just
that,
thinking of yeah, drizzle with lime juice and prostituted shoplifters.
we were talking about coming out as dyslexic, but the next point was to touch on the different techniques for hiding it. So you kind of started um, sharing the story about, writing menus, but what other techniques and I guess um, ways of hiding your dyslexia did you have?
In the early days, it was quite difficult before technology. So in my exams at school, past a certain age, I got very good at cheating in spelling tests. I used to write because in those days you were told what spelling words you remember. I used to write them on my leg, and then like look at my leg, and they go, "Oh yeah, that's how you spell that." But that didn't last long. Obviously, the teachers found out. Different techniques were just don't write in public. I didn't bring my glasses. I'll remember. I'm not going to write that down. Oh God, I'm just trying. There's just thousands and thousands of things like birthday cards. When they pass a birthday card around
Hmm.
and you need to sign and write a little note in there. And generally, you're in an environment where you have to do it quickly. I was like, oh yeah, okay. And I'll just generally sometimes just sign my name and not write any message. But I really wanted to write a message because that person meant a lot to me. And that sort of thing is quite. I think that's the biggest thing about trying to hide it is you want to. I suppose it's like anyone, you really want to say what you want to say. The people that can't, that are dumb, that can't talk, dumb as in not, yeah, yeah, and having not having that ability to write what you want to say, like a really good friend, not saying, you've been the best friend for me. I couldn't have gone through this without you. Instead of just writing your name, so you think, oh, and yeah, that person's going to say, wow, I thought you meant a lot to me, and he only put his name down. So hiding it like that was, yeah, challenging to say the least, really,
That's really
Sean.
sad. Didn't really, I guess I've never really thought of it like that. Like I know, like I've received cards when I've left companies or places, and there is sometimes you look back at it and you do go, oh, they only signed their name. You don't really think that there was a struggle, and even just signing the name, the turmoil that you would have gone through just to, write your name down in the card. It's kind of sad to think that, you know, you dyslexia was kind of, maybe please correct me if I'm wrong, but like a bit of a cage because you were silenced by yourself, by your own mind and your own fear of looking, unintelligent or not the same as everybody else. And I guess some of that would probably be deep seated and rooted into, a history of school being the way it was and being put in that class with the beanbags. And rather than have somebody help you, you were watching movies and, that sort of thing. Like it's really, if you look at the bigger picture of a life lived with something that people call a disadvantage, then it's really, really sad for a lot of people.
Yeah, I think you really hit the nail on the head there, Sean, when you mentioned about being in a cage. And the thing that sort of really resonates that with me of trying to spread my message is that's the hardest thing, is that you don't have a voice. And the really difficult thing that was, when I'm an adult, now it's okay, we've got technology. When I was growing up, even to write my mum a birthday card and tell her how much I love her, I couldn't do that in the card, and I just used to sign my name, and it used to rip me up, thinking, I mean, obviously, used to tell mum knows I love her, everything's fine, but just not be able to write and your feelings down to someone that you care about. Um, yeah, it's a cage, and it really affects a lot of your self-esteem and life generally, really, and how you believe people perceive your intelligence. But you grow out of it, like everything in this world, except for good looks.
What was, so like obviously pros and cons with everything. Um, what was some of your advantages of being a dyslexic person? How has it kind of helped and aided you in your life?
Yeah, so living with dyslexia has a lot of advantages, and one of them is you think differently, and you're a good friend of mine. I've known you for years. All of my friends that I know, they know I think differently. I am different. I think it makes you. I hate this saying, but it makes you think outside the box, and also you look at things a lot differently. So square, triangle, boxes, etc. You're not so regimented as in like A, B, C, D. And it's helped me a lot with my businesses. I've had businesses throughout my life, and the creativity side of things. A lot of famous artists and musicians and actors, a lot of them are dyslexic, proportionately more. And I think that's what it helps. Steven Spielberg, Tom Cruise, Anthony Hopkins, businessmen like Elon Musk, Thomas Edison, Winston Churchill, Bill Gates, Warren Buffett. I mean, the list can go on, about the advantages of that. And when you look at the list of people that actually are dyslexic and that have changed the world, and that's probably one of the biggest advantages, of being dyslexic, really, is just a different thinking. You just think differently. You can't put your finger on exactly what it is, but something's different upstairs, and you just notice it when you're doing work and you work around problems differently.
You posted to your Instagram, Smart Dyslexic on Instagram. It is time we lost the stigma around dyslexia. It is not a disadvantage. It's merely a different way of thinking. And that was a quote that you posted to your stories by Richard Branson.
Yes. Richard's a really good advocate for, I say Richard like a best
Yeah,
mates.
Bezzy mates.
Yeah,
See,
Richard, you know,
see
good
you
on
on
Richard.
Necker Island.
Yeah. I'm on his next space mission. Talking about Richard, very good story. So he's pretty much number one advocate for dyslexic thinking. So him and his charity in the UK, they've recently just added dyslexic thinking as a qualification on LinkedIn. So when you go looking for a job on LinkedIn, if you've had a diagnosis, you can actually tick a box as a dyslexic thinking qualification on LinkedIn now, which is a really big step, you know, for people with dyslexia. Anyone out there that has and is willing, you know, is ready to come out. I think, you know, I actually ticked the box on dyslexia on LinkedIn, and I had a few comments, so that's a really big step forward.
It is a really big step forward. That's really cool. I had no idea.
Mm,
Um, I guess my concern with something like that, and it shouldn't be a concern, but with particular people in the world would be a concern, was like, would people look at that ticked box and use it as a filtering system to not hire somebody? And you know, adversely, somebody might look at that as a filtering system to hire people, particularly somebody who, you know, maybe they run a business and they are dyslexic and they want to give people with dyslexic thinking more of an opportunity. But I guess there's always that, you know, shitty side
absolutely.
of the balance.
Yeah, without a doubt. And that's the same with any change, though, isn't it, mate? You know, when we have any change in society, there's always going to be the older thinking sort of demographic and way of thinking people, and that they are going to discriminate, whether it's against, you know, quite recently we've never had doctors in wheelchairs, but
Hmm.
now the new graduate UQ is the first doctor in the world in a wheelchair. So, and before that, that was never possible. So I think they're always going to be that discrimination. And I certainly don't want to work for someone that doesn't doesn't embrace it.
Hmm.
Now, my last job, I mentioned it in the first interview, and they were like, "Yep, fine." Didn't even blink an eyelid. You know, they say, "Yeah, yes, that's fine. What do you need?" You know.
See,
So
that's the kind of employer that you want to work for. Um, Also, and a best employer to work for is yourself. And I think if you stick at your guns with this, I think you'll definitely be, um, you know, you have the ability and the charisma to definitely help dismantle the stigma attached to dyslexia. Now you are starting to do that on this journey that you're sharing, and I believe there is some sort of book in the works.
there is, mate. Yeah. So I just full 360. The reason, have you heard of a comedian called Jimmy Carr, English comedian?
Oh yeah, know him well.
Know him well. So he just released his autobiography about 4 months ago. And he come out in the book as being dyslexic. And he talked about when he went to school and uni that he couldn't even read, the people who did the examination couldn't read his papers, couldn't read his writing. And even when he does his TV shows now, he can't read or write. So when he does the auto cue, they have to space it out with little dots between each word so he can break it up and see it. And I was like, wow, would never imagine that, because he's really articulate and
Mm.
quick-witted on TV. You know what I mean? You'd never think that. So it was his sort of autobiography that made me come out, start Smart Dyslexic, and it's the book's about sharing people's stories that are dyslexic that have been successful. So not your famous people, you know, Tom Cruise, Spielberg, etc., Bill Gates. These are people that have lived really successful lives but aren't world famous. And it's about sharing their stories and my story on, you don't have to be world famous if you are dyslexic. You can still have an amazing career with the use of technologies, and just showcasing and giving people encouragement that are dyslexic. There will be an audio book as well. And hopefully the book will be out in, these things never go to plan, but probably around March, I'm hoping.
Just do that, the old business trick of it'll come out in the first quarter of 2023.
Yes,
It'll come out
Q1.
in the summer of.
I love that, the summer of. It's
um,
quite relevant to what hemisphere that you're on. So it doesn't really
exactly.
matter. It's going to come out whenever.
You'll figure it out. Something will be released. Um, it's the That's one of the things I liked when I was, because I read your article that was published in the UK, and I really liked the mention of the book and the fact that it is sharing people's stories, because it's one of the reasons why I started the podcast, is to talk to people who were mostly everyday people who have a story to tell or have had an experience and wanted a platform to share it. And so it's really nice when I get to talk to somebody else who has that same, I guess, joy in helping people share their stories without, being a billionaire world leader or whatever, without having that huge platform. I think anybody who's willing to help other people have a platform, I think that's amazing. So congratulations to you. Well done, sir. Um,
Well, it's congratulations to you, really. I was quite honored when you asked, because I know what your podcast is about. I know why you do what you do, and it is to spread the word, and it is to enable everyone to realize that whatever challenges we're facing in life, that we're not alone, that we've all got the same, we've all got the same stuff. So I'd just, yeah, I'd like to thank you, Sean, really, just for your, I know how much work goes into making a podcast, and I know how much time and dedication you put into this. So from everyone you've interviewed, thank you so much for helping us spread our little word.
oh, it's a love
Yeah, I
fest.
really appreciate it. It's a great thing that you do, mate. From my heart, I genuinely think sharing people's stories is how we all evolve in life. It's how we all become better people.
Yeah, and it's, empathy plays a big part in that. When you hear somebody's story and you can connect with it, whether it be, we've had people on the show talking about addiction, coming out, we've got you talking about dyslexia. Like, if that message reaches one person and it has a positive change, well, then that's wonderful. Um, Back to your book though, because this is not a show about my show. This is a show about you. So the book is dropping sometime in
In
summer,
Q,
winter, or fall,
yeah,
Q1,
sometime
Q2, Q3 of 2023, maybe 2024. No, the book will be out really, really soon.
on
You've
Amazon
also,
and on Audible as well.
and you've
Hence Audible, because of dyslexic also affects reading. So
yeah, well, I mean, Audible and, podcasts and all of these things are great ways for people who, have a fear of reading or a struggle of reading to still, I guess, get the same content as to somebody who reads, 50 books a day and doesn't care.
absolutely sure. I think Audible, for me, for someone, I didn't discover it until audiobooks until quite late in life, but now I'm a nutcase on it, on Audible. I'll probably go for a book a week now, and it's just lovely to hear stories and experience things I would have probably never done before if I had to read them.
Yeah.
Like really amazing novels and journeys that books can take you on. Um, yeah, it's great to have that Audible experience. Absolutely. And one more plug for Audible.
Yeah, he's ready for his sponsorship now. Um, you've got the book, the website is not live yet, or is it gone live?
No, it's just on Instagram at the moment. So Instagram and Facebook, Smart Dyslexic. We hopefully looking to release the book in the summer, and then after that, we've got sort of a product that I've been working on for a number of years, but the technology hasn't been there. So currently, we have some engineers working on that. It's a device to help dyslexic people in their day-to-day life, and it's getting back to what we talked about, Sean, about sharing, about not being in the cage, and it's a
Mhm.
device to get people out of that cage in the situations in life when they don't have a PC in front of you with spell checker doesn't work for dyslexics anyway. It's a different story. because you don't know what the word means anyway. So, yeah, it's a device that's going to be out. Prototype's just being finished now, and then we're going to work on testing it. So hopefully around sort of about 3 or 4 months after the book, so mid next year, we hope to go into production and release that. So I won't give too much away at the moment, but it's a technical device that's definitely going to help people out of their cage. I
And with
love
fingers
that.
crossed, it'll be released in time for Christmas.
Next year, yes.
Yes. Not this year. That's like 3 weeks
No,
away.
no, I can't make a cake before Christmas this year. Nothing happens now. Isn't it funny that everyone sort of puts everything off from about now until after Christmas?
Yeah.
You know, like, I'll do it after Christmas. I'll do it after Christmas. But yeah, it's that sort of December of diverting.
um,
Divert in December.
divert in
Anyway,
December. Shay, what I guess no, before I get to advice, what are your goals? Your overall three top goals that you would like to see happen with the release of the website, the book, and the device.
first goal it would be to spread the word, and just help other people in this space spread the word. Second goal would be just to influence that one person, as you said, Sean. You know, if I can get that young teenage boy that listened to the audiobook, or the young girl to listen to it and go, wow, mum, I don't need to, you know, I'm not restricted by dyslexia. It's going to be an advantage in my life. That's the second one. And the third would be probably a selfish one, really, mate. As far as my own gratification that I've actually done something, that I've made a difference in the world. I think that's probably the biggest thing. That obviously what drives you as well, Sean. You know, because this is why you do what you do, and this is why I do what I do. You know, is to bring awareness and to certain topics, certain lifestyles people choose, and it's yeah, just to make the world a better, happy, lovelier place.
I
That's about
mean,
it.
that's what we all want.
That's
Um,
that's it.
what advice would you give to little Che now, looking back?
I'd give him a hug, mate. That's for sure.
Oh, that's cute. You're gonna make me cry.
I would give him a big hug, mate, and say it's okay. Everything's going to be okay. Um, that's about it, mate. I'd like to go on a novel, but it's not. It's just to give little Che a big hug and say this is a good thing that you're going through. It's going to make you the person that you are, and probably embrace it a bit more than what I did. As far as come out maybe a little bit earlier, but
Yeah.
that would be the only thing. Just to give love to the little boy that was me.
Oh,
Yeah.
little Che. And what advice would you give to anybody who's struggling at the minute with, um, learning that they have dyslexia or struggling silently, not knowing what's wrong with them?
I wouldn't give them a hug because they're a stranger. So it's not good to hug little strangers.
Consent. It's always need consent.
Yes, 44-year-old chubby man going up hugging children is not a thing anymore.
No, you can't do that.
Um, Advice would be, it's your own story, man. Like, take it whatever step you can. My journey, me letting people know about it, is something that was very good for me. And if you feel you're not ready, don't. Don't. If you think it's going to be a disadvantage, don't come out. I think you need to make peace with it yourself. Make peace with the fact that you it's not something that goes away, and you can't learn how to spell, unfortunately. I mean, my mum, I couldn't ask for a better mum. I don't know how to spell her name, and I've written it down thousands of times. It's crazy. The words just don't, you know. Yeah, people I've lived with, they said, "What do you mean you don't know how to spell my name?" So, would be to come out at your own time when you're ready. Use technologies. Really embrace things like Grammarly is amazing. Dragon naturally speaking is a voice to text. Um, embrace technologies and come out whenever you're ready, and also get tested. The universities do, just on a side note, if anyone is listening that is dyslexic, you can go to your local university. The psychologist students can do a test, and it's a lot cheaper. I think it's in Australia, it's $250 or something, but that's generally a 6-month wait. So, but take it at your own time, and if you want to come out, do so. But it's been good for me. Yeah, really good.
Well,
And now I'm on your
Che,
show.
you're on the show.
I'm on the show.
Well, thank you so much for coming on the show and sharing your story. I think it's important for us to talk about topics that I think dyslexia is one of those things that it's a word that we hear all the time, and it's not necessarily something that people nowadays really think about the struggles that people have with it. You just I know, from my point of view, I went to school with countless number of kids who were acknowledged the fact that they were dyslexic. And it's just one of those things that is just something that is possible, and you just assume that everything is just as it is, as somebody without dyslexia. So you don't really think about the turmoils and the struggles that people might be going through internally. So I think anytime we can have those conversations, it's incredibly important. So thank you for sharing your story. And I look forward to the book. I look forward to going onto the website when that launches, and I can't wait to have a go with your little device that it will be coming. That
Yes,
looks
I was
great.
definitely sending you a little sample device for your channel as well to have a look at when that comes out. I'd like to thank you for your time, Sean. I really appreciate it, to help me spread my little story. I think, as I said before, ingratiating you, but you put a lot of time into this and work that you do, and I thank you. Thank you very much for having me, and I look forward to what's happening next with you and with me as well.
Yes, lots of exciting stuff is happening
Yeah.
for the both of us. So that is all for this week's episode of Excuse Me. If you want to stay up to date with what Che is up to when his website launches, it will be www.smartdyslexic.com. You can currently follow him on Instagram at smartdyslexic. Che, thank you again. Listeners, viewers, wherever you're getting this from, thank you for your time. We love all of you, and we'll see you next time.
Love all of you. Thank you very much, Sean.